All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm here with Hinge's managing partner, Karl Feldman. Hey, Karl, how you doing?
All right. How are you doing, Austin?
I'm doing great. Hey, today we're talking all things legal marketing. So every year we do the high growth study. This is the 10th edition of the high growth study that we were able to run this year. And we're really excited to share kind of all the insights that we got from this research project, but not just from the global findings. Karl, what we want to do is go industry by industry. We do produce industry specific research reports and go through a few of the findings that we found for each industry. So I'm really happy that today I'm able to spend some time with you and talk about what did we learn from the legal industry specifically in this 2025 high growth study data. So we wrote a blog post about this. So we're not going from scratch here. We've dug into this. We've got some reference material here. I wanted to just pick your brain a little bit today on some of the findings that you highlighted in this blog post about the legal industry. So as we got into the high growth study this year, we were able to have 84 legal firms participate in this year's study, and a third of those identified as what we call high growth firms. So, Karl, those high growth firms, as you know, those are the ones that are growing over 20% over a 3-year time period. And in the case of the legal industry, that is a growth rate of 41.7%, which is 5.2% faster than their average growing peers. So within the legal sector, these high growth firms are really growing much faster than their slower growing peers, more than the average of other industries. So I want to get your thoughts. You highlighted 5 points in this article about the high growth law firms, legal services firms. The first one was about the top 3 challenges. So, within the legal industry, every year we ask all the participants, what are your top challenges? And what was notable this year, Karl, is that we saw a big spike in the response on downward price pressure on legal services. What do you make of that in your analysis of, why this became such a big issue this year?
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation. The blog post is still fresh enough in my mind that I remember some of the dots that we could connect, but we had to be disciplined not to here. I think legal is a really interesting, case within professional services because you have that spike in growth. We have faster growing firms this year. And then you have some interesting pressures going on too. It just reminds me, in the world and especially in professional services, you have these hidden ripples, to the onion of disruption, right? You've got AI working with, less predictability in the marketplace, whether it's regulatory or, political or economic, what have you. We're still adjusting to coming out of pandemic and whatever 10th, 15th, 20th ripple we're on there. Do we maintain one workplace, two, three, five? We seem to be perpetually camping and definitely digital natives. So I think a lot of those come together when you look at the challenges, downward pricing pressure and commoditization. It's interesting that you have that at the top, but number 3 is incorporating artificial intelligence. So that is changing the way all of professional services works, and I think also really highlighting where that advisory value lays and where we can work with yet another technology that helps to make things more efficient. How you can work hand in hand with that. I've been thinking a lot about this, for ourselves as we continue developing applications, as our clients are developing applications, and even the folks that we've been working with for 5+ years before the marketing blitz of AI, and that the pricing bar came way, way, way down. I really think of this as, and this is relevant to legal. AI is more of a business strategy challenge than a technology challenge. The
Good.
technology is going to progress at speed. It's elevating weekly, right? But the real challenge, the real opportunity is the business strategy, how it's applied, how it's positioned, how you work with it. And I think legal, just like accounting and finance, have a lot of very specific operational and delivery use cases where this technology is very powerful. But the perception, and we're biased thinking about brand and messaging and how you position, the use of AI, or what the public's perception of the value of AI, it's going to be a layer to cut through here with very clear communication. Because you see a lot of the very attractive headlines that talk about how AI will replace legal advisory because it can chew through all of these documents and things. I don't really talk so much about the strategy and accuracy and fact checking and all of those things, like behind the scenes, or how human and machine are working together. But that's a place where we're seeing is the fast growing firms really focusing in. We'll talk a little bit later about some of the connected points in content, the quality of that content, and even on analytics. And thanking our sponsor here for the legal study interaction with LexisNexis. Yeah, not coincidental. I mean, that is a system where you can bring some powerful analytics to decisions, understand your audiences better. That's a hallmark of high growth firms across verticals.
Definitely. And I mean, let's get into some of that. So the second finding, and now we're getting more uh, into the data here on those high growth legal firms. We asked everybody who took the high growth study to tell us, what are your top marketing priorities for 2025? And I always say this, just for a bit of context, this is a pool of like 15, 20 different options people could select. And for the second year in a row, we saw that content creation was the top marketing priority for high growth legal firms, really for professional services firms across the board. But what was unique about the legal industry for the high growth firms specifically is this emphasis on search engine optimization. I think about the legal industry and how competitive it is, and how much of a role the search engine space probably still will, and for a long period of time, I'd say moving forward, even with other AI tools, search engines play such a crucial role. When someone goes to a search engine and types in, a personal accident attorney near me, like you want your firm to be at the top of that list. That'll get down to what we talk about in a second, which is a little bit of the digital ad space. But talk to me about this emphasis on SEO and what you know from speaking with legal firms over the years. I mean, it is clear to me, especially as we looked at other industries, the legal industry really considers this a high priority.
And I will say, I mean, this is that's a bias in research. We always think of the injury attorneys with marketing and search engine because they are so forward with the messaging. But I think this point really applies across the legal industry, and it ties closely to this third point, and also we'll talk about a little bit a focus on research. I think you think about legal profession overall, there is a huge amount of research. This is part of the culture, right? Research, understanding. So it makes complete sense that this vertical really prioritizes that search engine optimization, the research behind it, thinking about how we are visible for the most important terms, and really just in time. We haven't seen this really, you know, click in yet, and it may just be because of the nomenclature, the language is evolving on what we even call this, but GEO or AI infused search engine results. It's related, a lot of fundamentals shared, but also very much rewards that human first type of research. So understanding what your audience really cares about, what's relevant to them, what kind of language they use, and how they will engage with information as they're looking to understand their challenges and how to address it. That's going to be something that I think we'll see the legal vertical really take a lead in, because they are so focused on that research and understanding and methodical about that, especially language research. That is very much part of the profession and certainly relevant here. It stands out to me too when you start thinking about the difference between high growth and the lower growth firms, that the big difference here when we're looking at search engine optimization as a priority, right behind it is the marketing analytics,
Hmm.
understanding what's working, what's not, understanding that attribution. We'll see in a little bit, well, later in the article, they're hard graders, right? We
Yeah.
see that across, high growth firms. They readily acknowledge, we're not doing this as well as we could, but they're focused on it. I think when you get into the grains and we go back to our qualitative research, you get an understanding that these high growth firms, they're harder graders also.
Yes.
A low growth firm may say, yeah, we do analytics. It's on a spreadsheet. High
Mhm.
growth firm expects a lot more. They expect that to scale, expect to be able to put their finger on what that return looks like on any campaign.
Karl, one other thing I would add on this topic about just my experience in working with some of our legal clients. Actually, this week, I just did a competitive analysis on for a website project that we're doing for one of our legal clients. And it just amazes me when you look across the legal industry. Some of these legal websites are gigantic. I mean, we talk about information hierarchy and how important that is in terms
Being
of
met.
the website experience. But legal firms are not shy about adding more content to their website. Part of that, I imagine, is because of the SEO play there, right? If they cover a certain industry or they have a special service, they're not just listing it on one big services page. They are creating sub pages all across their website for everything that they do. And I think this is known in the legal marketing space, but I'd say for those legal marketers out there listening, look at your website and continue to say, can we add, more meaningful content to this that positions our firm and showcases, your expertise in various areas. As Karl was just saying, that's going to have some SEO benefits, but it'll probably also cut across into that GEO space as well as that continues to play a bigger role in our lives.
Yeah, that persona base and what's really going to be engaging is the key there. And you know, speaking of legal marketers, I mean there are, I think, unique to legal industry, there are a lot of guardrails of what you can and can't say, how you promote things. So, it's natural that SEO and the kind of that inbound model is strong, and you play into the natural strengths and culture of that legal industry. And I think this is a place where we may look and see some interesting strategies that may have application in other verticals. It's
That's right.
yeah.
So, Karl, the next thing that we highlighted in the blog post was we looked at the marketing techniques where the high growth legal firms are telling us, hey, this is our biggest investment in terms of both time spent and money. That's kind of the way we position the question in the research. All things considered, where would you rate this? The highest thing on the top of the list for investment purposes was digital ads. Again, another option here that for the legal industry was unique. I think when we think about paid digital advertising, whether those be Google ads or campaigns on social media, various sponsorships of different sorts, it's very easy to, calculate the budget of that, right? We're going to spend this much on Google ads, $30,000 a month, et cetera. And so that the kind of cost and investment is very acute because we're talking about dollars in and ROI out. It's probably the easiest thing to spend. But I'd say, again, looking at the other industries, legal firms are way more aggressive still in terms of making these investments into paid advertising. What do you make of that for, the legal space and kind of that aggressive investment that we're seeing on this front?
I think again that targeting is very attractive. The targeting potential of digital ads and being able to match that up very closely to specific personas or even accounts, account focus. I think that plays very well for the legal verticals. We see it, rising across the board. But again, legal is leading the space here, and you look at how it's being used in other verticals. I think, yeah, in some other verticals, it's still living in the very account focused, major pursuit focus, and held out. This is a bit of like connecting the dots and reading the tea leaves, but I think across the board in professional services, the expectation for what it costs to actually perform well and see that return in the digital ad space, it's still immature. All of this to say that I think in the legal industry, teams are using digital ads more like the rest of the world, right? As a way to cut through the clutter, cut through GEO zero click responses, especially on Google, using regional focus. So it's playing well together with that focus on SEO, and actually look at the other two investment points here. Branded marketing collateral for events, also something that is very often and can be very effectively used with digital ad support to surround an event before, during, after, and then also video blogging. How do you extend? How do you bring folks to that?
Yeah, the video blogging was another one that caught us by surprise. But thinking about these high growth firms, forward thinking marketers, video really coming into the center of everybody's marketing strategy at this point, as people need to lead and kind of break through that noise on other channels outside of just search engines. So really interesting dynamic here going on with the legal marketers.
You think about visible expertise and what is your natural comfort zone. Let's be real. Legal teams, they are some of the most camera ready folks that we work with. I mean, there's a lot of professional services where the power is behind a keyboard. You can go and network when you have to, those types of things, but I wouldn't call it natural. In the legal space, you have a lot of experts that are born to broadcast on YouTube or video blogs or what have you. So that's a natural hookup there, I think.
Absolutely. So, Karl, the fourth finding is about how high growth law firms are prioritizing strategic research. So, this year, one thing that we did was a little bit different in the research of the high growth study was that we asked for all of the companies to specify for us, well, what kind of research are you actually doing? Is it client satisfaction, experience, marketplace research, client research, SEO, down the line? We asked a bunch of them. The big winner here was the client satisfaction / experience research. 71% of high growth firms said this is a part of the dynamic. And in the full study, we go a little bit further in terms of how often they're doing this research, but I'll spoil it a little bit. It's very frequently. It's quite frequently. It's almost like as if it's baked into the way that their organizations work. What do you make of this, for the legal industry and kind of the important role that client satisfaction and experience research plays?
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased. I love to see this, in any vertical, but this is what I was alluding to earlier. As an industry, legal is geared for research. It's what they do. It's a natural comfort zone. They use it, to great effect to help understand their own business. There's still room for improvement or opportunity when you look at some verticals like our architects who have cornered the market on research as content. So doing research and actually using that in their promotion or as educational content, that we see that in places in the legal vertical, but it hasn't caught on to that extent. And I think that's a natural win for any legal marketing teams out there, thinking about how you can build this type of research that's relevant for your audience and use that as educational content, especially in times of disruption like we're going through now, or uncertainty. Experts that can point to validated research as content, as advisory, that's even better. And yes, we are a little biased to that. We buy into that philosophy for sure. But it's something we've seen a lot of really great results for. And legal, the strength in research, that should be a layup.
Definitely. It's what we're doing right now, and I think it is. I think for all marketing teams, it's a
Meta.
it's
A
a
little.
strong it's a strong approach to content marketing. So, Karl, the final finding here, and I think that we saw this across all industries and professional services, I think this might be the most significant and interesting finding that we pulled out of this year's study. And it is just to point on how difficult professional services marketers find it to accurately capture and use their marketing and business development metrics. Now, compared to the overall professional services segment here, the high growth legal firms tend to rate themselves as more proficient than other industries that we measured. However, still, I think, if we're talking about 1 in 5 marketers are saying they're highly proficient and the other 4 out of 5 are saying, now we're not there yet, that's a big gap to close in terms of how we're capturing and using marketing, which ultimately gets us to what the heck are we getting out of our marketing investments? Which, if you talk to any partner at a company, law firm, or any other kind of firm, that is the first question that they're going to ask you is, what are we getting out of this? What is the ROI on our marketing investments? And I think that right now it's probably the worst kept secret in marketing that this is a huge struggle. We have data to back it up now. So how have you interpreted this data that we've gotten on this what seems to be like a major struggle for marketers at large, but also legal marketers?
This is a great place to close on because I think we at Hinge feel so strongly about this, and it's one of our guiding principles for work is not just coming up with recommendations and strategies, but actually measuring the success and helping our clients measure the success. I think Austin, you're in a good seat to know what hard clients we are for ourselves when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to attribution and analytics. But I think that's reflected here, and I'll lean on just on a personal front. I started my career in tech and B2C and VC, and made my way to B2B and eventually to professional services. So it's not lost on me, the differences in how you measure programs or the focus or even the fact that the solution or product that we're selling is actually expertise, and expertise is malleable, right? How you position, how you show up for that, it's a changing thing. And I think, and not in a bad way, just in a matter of fact way, I think we have heard every excuse under the sun for why you can't see return on investment, or why, oh my gosh, our life cycle's so long, or oh, we do these things and you can never measure, and we can't ask that, and we don't want to sell, and we're sellers and we're also doing the work, and how do billable time always wins. That's just scratching the surface. But I'm here to tell you very clearly, there is no excuse left. I mean, the barrier to entry for understanding analytics, what's working, what's not working, it is more accessible than ever, lower cost than ever. You do need to adapt culture. I think that's probably the biggest challenge out there, and set things up right in the first place. I think that ties, if culture is, this is how we do things. In a lot of cases for professional services, reinventing the sales process or the business development process to be attribution ready, to think about how we're setting things up to report on success, and what are the listening posts to understand how campaigns may be working or not, and be able to adjust in flow. But I think, 2025, I'll say it right here for our friends in legal and for anybody else that'll listen, this is the year to stop making excuses. Measure the results, attribute success, and adjust for failure. I think, especially in times of quickly changing platforms, evolving technologies like AI we touched on, communication, and a lot of conflicting messages just out in the channels. This is the time to shorten your decision loop. And there is no better way to do that than to pay close attention to your analytics. And I think we see this in legal, and we see it across the high growth professional services firms. You know, in the last year, 2 years, that focus has really come down into that mid funnel, nurturing, helping to engage and share experience and understanding, and then down to the business development conversion point, understanding how you're making the best use of that. That's an area where high growth professional services firms have drastically outclassed the rest of the field. And that is because they've invested in that type of technology infrastructure, that type of cultural shift, the type of support, all the things we talked about with content and how you're doing SEO and all of these pieces. They've invested in that. The pandemic changed a lot of things while we were in it. It Our view is still, it didn't invent completely new trends, but it accelerated a lot. And I think what we're talking about here is the bounce afterwards. So, the high growth firms that saw that writing on the wall, invested heavily, made the shift in culture, they are harvesting that goodness right now in the form of analytics and understanding and adjusting. It's one of the reasons they have as much as 4 out of 5 are not happy with it yet, because there's still more to do.
Definitely. Well, Karl, thank you for your time today. This was a really great discussion, but hey, we only scratched the surface. That's why we provide the full study, which is on sale now on our website. We will put the link to the report as well as the blog post that we referenced in the description below on this video. But yeah, there's a lot of additional insight. I mean, this really only touched on a few points from the research. If you really want to understand what is the state of legal marketing, especially from the perspective of what the fastest growing companies are doing, then this research is really an invaluable pickup for you. And it is on sale now on our website. And again, I think it's worth giving a shout out to the sponsor of this year's study, which was Interaction at LexisNexis. Thank you to them, and shout out to them for sponsoring this research. Our sponsors really help us accelerate and get this research out faster and more consistently to the public. So we really appreciate their support on this project. And you can learn more about them in the link in the description below as well. So Karl, thank you. Great discussion. And hey, we'll be back with some more videos about more findings from this research here shortly. Take care.